welcome Wrestlebuddies to yet another episode of Meet the Wrestlebuddies. Today we are introducing one of the newest members of Team Wrestlebuddy. He's our southern sweetheart, the one we call Dutch. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Tyler Peters. How you doing today?
I am doing great, Matty. It's always a thrill to be a part of the Wrestle Buddy team, and I've been looking forward to this, man. So I can't wait to do this interview.
We already got Amanda in the chat.
Yeah, shout out to Amanda. Thank you and everything for your guys' support in the comments.
All right, so we're going to start off this interview the same way we start off every other one. Tyler, what was your first memory of pro wrestling?
That's a great question. My first memory of pro wrestling probably dates back to the Monday Night Wars with WCW Nitro and Raw, with Sting. I got to admit, I was a big fan of Sting going to his Crow character and everything, the NWO angle, and of course McMahon and Austin, DX, all of that. I had to actually go back to, earlier too, to the 80s to appreciate the territories and everything like that. And we're already getting some great comments. Yeah, you're going to make me hungry with the sausage, biscuit, and gravy. That's a Southern person's that's food for their soul, is what it is. So I appreciate that. But now, going back to the question, there was something about professional wrestling that attracted my senses. I think you can relate to this, Matty, and so many others that part of the team and who are just wrestling fans. It just emotionally, I was invested. Even as a little kid, there was an ambiance about it, the matches and stuff. I remember Ric Flair and seeing his matches, speaking of Sting or Vader, some of those just polarizing characters. And, of course, Hulk Hogan, I know he's controversial, but I got to admit, I was watching the old WWF TVs and Hulkamania and appreciating Bret Hart and the Shawn Michaels later on and like the Stone Cold Steve Austins, as I aforementioned. So that's really my response is I've just always been captivated. I hope that makes sense by professional wrestling. I think it's the storylines. It is kind of like a soap opera, for everyone. So, and everything. So, yeah, I get excited. I'm a big wrestling fan.
Now, you brought up Sting, you brought up Hart, you brought up Austin. Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
If I'm going to be honest, it has to be Sting, even though I do think now Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels are the better actual wrestlers, but with all due respect to Sting, I think it was his character, going back to the Surfer, Beach Blonde, Stinger, and then, like I said, the Crow character, Out of the Shadows, was always pretty cool. Always rooted against Hogan. But, hey, I appreciate the honesty. I know a lot of people did, but I got to admit, I've got a Hulkamania shirt, so when he turned, here's a little sidebar, I ripped up my Hulk Hogan poster. That's how personal I took it. And now I think, what an idiot, because that would have still been cool. But that's how much wrestling it just really drove me emotionally. So I was so mad when he turned on Macho Man Randy Savage. I used to go to house shows in Tennessee and stuff, and I think, how dare he, saying his prayers and vitamins, and here he goes dropping the leg and joins these guys from the WWE and everything. So that's why that story was so good, speaking of the NWO and then DX and what the Monday Night Wars were doing. Now, I do appreciate the older wrestling like Cap and so many others, though, as well.
When Hogan turned, I became a fan, Jimmy said.
Yeah, hey, there's drip. Yeah, Hogan was great. Now, I've learned to appreciate that now, but I go back to when I was just a kid. You just can't draw those parallels. That's what's so incredible about professional wrestling is, Hogan was saying that. I can remember that trash being thrown on TV, even for the shows. I mean, you see people just get mad. Scott Steiner really drew a lot of the what they call the heat. He would come out flipping people off at house shows. I mean, it was amazing as Big Papa Pump when he made that transition in the later years of WCW, but it was successful. So there's so many recollections and memories of our fandoms, man. That's what I love about these kind of interviews.
Now, you said Sting was your favorite wrestler growing up. That is also the favorite wrestler of Nick.
Okay.
Were you drawn more towards the Crow character than the Surfer character, correct?
I guess I was. Now, I did remember he was still, in that earlier version of, later version, excuse me, of the Surfer Sting persona, but it took the Crow Sting where he got mysterious, because that's, I think, really when I was viewing it, when speaking of, Monday Night Nitro and everything.
We got David saying, "Oh no, Jimmy and me agree. We've reached our quota for the month."
Well,
So
thank you,
early,
David.
guys.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm happy. You could help him, Matty, and on this show. That's awesome. Hey, that's what we're here for.
Now, you said storylines emotionally drive you. We're not going to touch
Yes.
the favorite match just yet. What is your most favorite and emotionally driving storyline that you've been attached to?
Well, I have to go. There's been an affection for me, the whole Bret Hart Shawn Michaels story, because there was some real life, dislike and disdain for both those wrestlers, and I'm glad to see they've somewhat buried the hatchet. They're able to, time does heal all, or at least mostly it does. But I think that with Vince McMahon, that because that really catapulted the Mr. McMahon character. That was also something that stood out to me, because I would watch WCW pay-per-view, but then if I watched the WWF, then the WWE Now shows, it was WrestleMania 12, the Iron Man match, was a fond memory of mine. Now, a lot of people kind of go back and forth on whether they like that concept or not, but Jose Lothario was, or maybe it's Lothario, how you say it, had trained Shawn, and they added him. You had Gorilla Monsoon out there, and one of the Hebners was officiating, and I can pick out little moments that were really magnified at Anaheim, I think it was, and it was so awesome. Shawn, what was it? He didn't propel, but he kind of rode something
It
out.
was the zip line.
The zip line. Thank you for that. I was trying to think of the right terminology there, but that just stood out. Those guys had great chemistry, and it helped and assisted them because they did not care for one another. So that's something else that resonated. And of course, Austin, his rise was big, and I was very, I was there for the Goldberg run. I know a lot of people don't like Goldberg, but at the time, I'm looking at it from my kid lenses. You don't, you have various opinions, and I remember that undefeated streak and everything. That was a big deal, because it's probably been done, but they kind of, it was their version of it, and something I had never witnessed before. So that's just some of the other moments that stood out.
And like you said earlier, something that was absolutely polarizing. Like there was nothing
Correct.
like it. All
Yeah,
right,
it was special.
we got our first question. Dream opponent for Sting, and you cannot say The Undertaker.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's a great question by Jimmy there. Dream opponent for the Stinger. Let's see. Talk about doing buddy wars and booking. This has got the wheel spinning. That was on the spot there. So forgive my, taking a little bit of time on that one.
Take your time.
Let's see. If I had a dream opponent and had the choice of all promotions, he's really faced a lot of good ones so far that have matched up well with him. I'll tell you, I think he's always liked working with bigger guys, not just with Taker. I'd be interested to what he could do. Because he's even mentioned it, what kind of match he could have maybe with a Braun Strowman. I know that's wild, but he's even mentioned that. Because here's the thing, he's worked with Abyss, which is kind of similar, even though I think Braun's even bigger. But he's a younger guy that can, I think, give Sting a pretty decent match. I'm trying to think a little bit differently, kind of come out of the box.
Yeah.
I know it seems strange, but I'm trying to think of the guys he's even mentioned that would help me, make sense of who the dream opponent. But it's so hard when you can't put Taker in there, because he's even been adamant. I thought him and Triple H was a good match. Now, you can say what you want to about the finish of the WrestleMania match, but I actually thought, they did pretty well together, considering they didn't have, that was their first and only match.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
And I'll tell you, if he didn't get hurt, the Seth Rollins Sting match was good.
It was really good.
Yeah, that was still a very good match. So I would even have picked Seth Rollins, maybe more so than Braun Strowman. I was just trying to think outside the box of somebody who was a big guy, kind of like when Sting faced Vader. That would be a feud that was one of my favorites, the whole strap match and how they were White Castle of Fear. My goodness, that was... We look on it and laugh now, but there was nothing to laugh about with those matches. Vader, definitely his stiffer style, and Sting even mentioning the Omni where the ribs were poking out, where Vader did some kind of splash or maneuver, and you've got over 400 pounds, and that athletic can move like the big man can, and you're going to get hurt. So it was always those kind of highlights that stand out in my mind. I wish I could remember it all, but man, we've went through so much wrestling, just like if it's films or music, and it's a lot to take in. So that's just a wonderful question. I love reading the comments, and thank you, Jimmy. And I'd be interested to hear, other people mention who they think would work with the Sting or whoever for an example.
Well, speaking of, we've got David in the chat saying Sting versus Switchblade Jay White.
That's a good one. That's not a bad one because, to me, if you look at Sting and Vampiro, Sting and Switchblade, I know it's different, but the guys are kind of similar, I think, in size. Even if Switchblade is a little bit smaller, that can still be manageable.
Jimmy said Sting versus HBK. That'd be a good one, too.
Yeah, that'd be a good one, too.
If they're both in their prime.
That's what's unfortunate. They'd have to be in their prime. Even Angle answered this question. That's what made me think about it on his podcast. Because somebody was saying, what if you could face Sting in a fantasy match in AEW? Because they have faced each other in TNA and had some very good matches. And Angle always said, he's like, with all due respect to both of us, we're just older now. We need that young guy, that workhorse to help us out. Not that we can't go, but it just wouldn't make sense now.
Now we're going to take a little detour off of this, as you have experience aside from anybody else in the Team Wrestlebuddy. Me and Captain attempted to call a show together, but you actually have a chance to sit ringside, headset on, and call wrestling matches for CCW. Walk us through
that. It's a learning experience. My advice would be just to enjoy it, and like they say, just be quiet and listen. Because that's the best way you're going to be able to go about it. When you got Kevin Sullivan, and I say this for all the commentators for CCW and even some fellow podcasters like yourselves that have done some commentating, that I always learn something from everybody. It's important to have that good chemistry also in the broadcast booth, from what I gather. If you listen to a Jim Ross or a Michael Cole now, and whoever you want to use as the illustration, Kevin Sullivan, I just try to listen. I would try to follow him, show him respect. If he wanted to lead something, I would back off. I think that's very key with anything, just like this conversation. You just sit back and listen. You try to absorb from that learning tree, as they would say, the old wrestling term. And the Taskmaster, one of the best. I mean, you got Gangrel down there, and a lot of people that they're very in tune to what wrestling, how it's done now, but can still borrow from that old school mentality that gives it that balance that it needs. So I'll tell you what, I didn't even know that I would be commentating with Kevin Sullivan till I got to the facility. So you talk about goosebumps, chills, nerves, and anxiety, if I can say it. I'll tell you, that was incredible. Yeah, Kevin is a very underrated legend of the business, and one of the more creative minds. I mean, the guy, that's why he's been selected to be on booking committees, because people admire his intellect concerning wrestling. So I can't put him over enough. And he was a class act. You get a lot of them that I would understand if they were going to be, tougher on you. I would respect that, but unfortunately we meet some of our heroes and they kind of let us down because they still think, they're better than anybody else. But Kevin Sullivan, I will say, was nothing like that. A class act and a just nothing but respect. And that was just, I'm a fan. So the fanboy in me had to be careful not to mark out in front of Kevin Sullivan. You don't want to do that, but I see the temptation, because here's a guy you watched on TV have all these great matches. He was involved behind all these masterful angles, and he just, I'm telling you, you just follow his directions. Used him as a reference during commentary. But I would just, my suggestion would be just relax and have fun, but, still take it serious and just put the work in. And all those are essentials. But I'm still learning myself, so I've got a lot to improve upon and get better at. But I'm very thankful, and thank you for asking about that experience, because It meant a lot to me, and I have, this website to thank and a lot of the podcasts I've been a part of that gave me that connection with Coastal Championship Wrestling to have that wonderful opportunity.
Now, how long have you had the headset on for Coastal Championship?
I've had the headset on. I wasn't actually doing commentary till probably about, I want to say, 2021. Because I had started actually trying to learn ring announcing. I was there with a great ring announcer, experienced guy. Only got to do a few matches because it started raining. It was an outdoor event in 2020. It was really hot, humid. And I was nervous because I need to get into the ring. And I'm like, I hope I don't fall or slip. And so I was out there, and it just started raining. So they ended up not even being able to do the full ring announcements. And part of me and all the wrestlers and everything. It was so that was an experience. You talk about things just happening, Mother Nature. But hey, some of them still wrestled, but it was scary watching it because it was slippery. But they were pros, so they still got it done. But that was definitely an interesting night. I was so nervous. I got the weights or some of the names wrong. You could tell it was my first time, so I was laughing about it now. But at the time, I was kind of mad at myself. Wanted to kind of slap myself in the mirror or something because I'm like, how could you do it? Because I really tried to prep, but nothing prepares you till you get to that moment. And so I did a little bit of ring announcing. I got involved in an angle. I'm not a wrestler by any means, but there was part of a storyline. It was kind of neat. Originally, I was going to take a tombstone pound driver. And but I got headbutted. So either way, I was going to be toast. I wasn't going to... I was saying I've got a headache for 2 years now because I took a headbutt from the guy they called the Brazilian Destroyer Phoenicius, and man, I'm still holding my head. Oh my goodness, that was wild. But originally he was going to do the Undertaker Kane to me and do the tombstone, and that would have been something. But the headbutt was still. You talk about adrenaline coming through all those fans, and it was so funny. Speaking of comedic. I was blown up before I got to the ring apron. You could tell I wasn't a trained pro. That's the funny part about it. I couldn't even get up to the ring, but what helped me, motivated me, was the fans saying, "Hey, he can't even make it into the ring." And I started getting kind of more aggravated in a good way. And I'm like, I'm going to show you. So I got in there. Luckily, I did, and then I tried to. Bill Alfonso, of all people, was the manager, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Here's the ECW guy. I've got to try to shove him, me at my size, But that's what was pretty cool about it. And then that's when Phoenicius headbutted me, and that's why it was a great memory because everybody was like, "Wow!" I had a lot of people comment, I can't believe you were in there doing that. But it's all thanks to them, and they'll probably have to edit that out because they're like. Especially the ring part, but that's kind of funny. Guy gets blown up before he can even go in there and try to do anything. That's great. Big headline.
So, what would you say now is your favorite match?
Oh, that's a tough one. My favorite match. Oh man, because thanks to the network and library, like I've stated before, you got to. Consider, the Ric Flair Steamboat trilogy, definitely any Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart's Stone Cold Steve Austin match. I thought they had a great rivalry. Sting Vader's up there. Nick Bockwinkel, I've really studied and went back. I love his matches with Kurt Hennig. I mean, that before he was even Mr. Perfect was awesome. Anything with Bobby Eaton, and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Midnight Express. I'm trying to get my words out, but even to think about all this stuff and download it into your brain, it's not always easy. So, and everything supported me there. But yeah, the Midnight Express, of course, Jim Cornette. That's where me and Cap, I can see us agreeing upon because he's definitely that old school soul and all of that. And yeah, Cornette's one of the best. I mean, I like him, but I can also draw parallels to somebody new. Where I may differ with him. So that's the thing. There's versatility, and you all call me Dutch. Well, that's another guy I respect. I listen to him. That's what's amazing, the wealth of knowledge that a lot of these guys possess. He's similar to Kevin Sullivan. He booked Puerto Rico and so many others. He was in Memphis, all over the place, But yeah, Dutch Mantell. So that's why I take a lot of pride in you all even naming me that, because I'm like, I'm not worthy of that honor, but it sure is pretty neat to have the Dutch Mantell kind of stigma there. And I don't know how he'll feel about it. Yeah,
I think you deserve it because you do bust your ass for us, Tyler.
I appreciate that. Well,
You've written so many articles for us, popped on so many podcasts already.
well, hey, and the work also is collective because you guys do so much too. So don't discredit your efforts. I appreciate it, and I thank you. But I always people go, why don't you? You're not. Just take the thank you. But that's always how I've been. I'm just humble. I mean, I really am. I'm just so appreciative of all these opportunities. And I know I'm going to sound redundant because I've told you in the chat it may come off as annoying, but it's genuine. Don't get me wrong. I'm very thankful for this platform. And I got a shout out to Josh DeBoard. He was the one that recommended me, also a great writer and podcaster. Got to be on his show. And he was like, yeah, this website, Wrestlebuddy, man, you want to be a part of this team. And when I got with you guys, I'm like, man, I love the support that's on this whole machine, like you talked about. And so it's just amazing, man. So I also appreciate it, and I want to say thank you to you guys too, because you guys bust your tails too. So don't discredit your efforts.
This is why I call you our Southern sweetheart. Now, you brought up you're always willing to learn something new, or talk about something new.
Sure.
David has asked, what do you think the career trajectory will be for Nick Wayne?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've definitely been aware of Nick Wayne, but it's not really fair for me to say much because I still got to do my research and really get into his career, because I never feel comfortable saying what their trajectory is going to be without kind of doing my homework, my prep. That's just kind of my mentality about it. So I want to, but I think he's got a lot of great talent, a lot of potential. But to be fair to that question, I know that seems disappointing, but I just don't know a lot about him.
Which is fair. He's very young at this point still.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's still very young, and probably, I don't know if you say green or not.
He is phenomenal for being, I think, 17?
I think so. So it's fair to say he is pretty great. So he's definitely not in the green, like the wrestling terminology there.
Yeah, and he's already had bangers with Will Ospreay and many more.
Well, see, and that's what I'm saying. I'd have to go back and do my homework. But that's what's great about, Matty and all the WrestleBuddy team. You guys have that IQ. You just said it. He had the match with Will Ospreay. I wouldn't have had a clue. Didn't know. And everything. So I'll have to go and check out his matches so I'm better prepared in case somebody were to ask me that. And I know, but I want to be honest with everybody in case I don't have all the information. I just want to throw it out there that out of respect to the wrestler, that's my thing. That's how I approach commentary, going back to that question. Like us all, we try to do our research. I like trying to fill out that process and come off organic, but I like to have my notes too, because there may be some important points I need to look down at and kind of relay to the audience.
David,
I'll send you some matches, Tyler. Okay, thank you, David.
He sent me the Hikaru Shida winning the Wave title the other day, and yeah, Dave, thank you so much for that, because that match was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dave. Yeah, send some matches my way. I'm like an open book, always willing to learn and find out what's the diamond in the rough, so to speak.
Now, what is your favorite modern storyline? We've talked about your favorite storyline of all time. In like the past, say, 5 to 10 years, what's your favorite storyline?
My favorite storyline right now, I've got to admit, it's Roman Reigns, the Bloodline. I know everybody's going to go, oh, we should have known he was going to go with that one, but you can't deny, going back to the pandemic era, the Thunderdome, of how important that was for Roman Reigns and him just returning from adversity. Leukemia, I believe it was.
Courtney.
Was it not? Oh, hey, Courtney, how's it going? So, yeah, Roman Reigns has just been on another level. I think his allegiance with Paul Heyman has been brilliant. One of the ingenious people in the business and creative minds would be Mr. Heyman, the wise man. And I have to acknowledge the Bloodline. I mean, they're doing that well and doing that great. Heck, I even was such a fan, I got a shirt. I wore it at SummerSlam, so I was trying to be unbiased because I really admire Brock Lesnar. But at the end of the day, Roman Reigns is just... he's that star. He's that main event guy. And as much as I like Drew McIntyre at Clash, I wasn't hating the finish where Roman won. And so, yeah, that has to be the current angle that's got everybody talking. And I'm jumping on that bandwagon.
Great to see you in our
Oh,
chat.
through the phone. Well, that's what's great about technology. You may want to see Matty through the phone. You may want me on audio next time, but I'm here.
Now, we covered about 10 hours of pro wrestling the other weekend. What was your favorite match from that whole weekend?
Favorite match? I'm going to go with Gunther, or Gunther, however you say it. It's different pronunciations, it seems like, in Sheamus. I want to give those guys a lot of credit. I thought the triple threat for the women's, both the titles at Worlds Collide was great. I think Mandy Rose has improved immensely. We all know she's very attractive. I get that, but as far as in-ring ability, was a very good match and everything. And, of course, got to give a lot of props to the opening match, Ricochet, Carmelo Hayes. Now, to be fair, I didn't get to watch all of AEW All Out, but I will say the tag team match between the Acclaimed and Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland was awesome. Yeah, and having Billy Gunn involved, I love the story those guys were telling. Sure, there was a lot of pretty neat spots, but it was really cool. Really, I think, well laid out.
How you doing, Russ? Yeah, no, the entire weekend seemed very well laid out, very well thought out, until we got to the end. What is your whole take on the debacle at the end of the all-out media scrum?
It was
in one word.
Embarrassing. And I'm looking at it very unbiasedly too. It's nothing against either party here. It's not a good look. I've talked about this with other podcast friends and stuff on their programs, and you're going to have a mixed reaction, mixed opinions. But here's my take on it. I just think it's overshadowing your product. I mean, unless it's a big angle, which, a lot of people hope, but I hope it's not. CM Punk, to me, I respect what he's done, his contributions, but when is the whining poor me song and dance going to end? That's my issue with him. And the Bucks, hey, the Elites had their problems. I'm not defending them because I think they do have way too much control. I don't think they need to be MVPs or EVPs, whatever you call it. And Tony Khan, I respect him. I don't want to knock the guy. But he's like any of us. He would get too overexcited in that position because he's a fan. I mean, I just don't get why he gets overly hyped because we always got to have some big announcement. I mean, there just seems to be not a good trend every week. Now, it's one thing to make the announcement special or seem bigger or more of an attraction, but he's just always got to get out there. And I'm thinking, quit complaining about competition. That's what, made wrestling so great is the Monday Night Wars with WCW and the WWF, and then you had ECW. You had a lot of the territories. So I would not be complaining about that. I would be very grateful that WWE did do a show and that you had All Out, you had Worlds Collide, because I think that's healthy for the wrestling business when he made that comment. So I thought the media scrum was just a mess. It was unnecessary. But once again, we've heard of wrestling confrontations happening, fights in locker rooms, so it's nothing out of the ordinary or uncommon. I just did not think there was any way. If you're going to call them out, do that on your time. Go meet them in the locker room. Just don't do that for this press conference deal, a media scrum, whatever you call it. It's just not a very professional thing to do. And it's no knock on either party because I'm trying to look at it very fairly here. Mm-hmm. But it's hard not to. Yeah, it's hard not to wonder, though, if I was in that spot, which I'm not, and I'm not those guys. I'm not even on that level. I'm not trying to say I am. I'm just trying to think, even if we had disagreements as friends or anything, and it escalated, there's just ways to do it better. I just don't think that's the right way to handle it. So, and you're always going to get different sides, perspectives, as you would imagine. And now this has came out where you get one side of it where, I don't know, I read it just earlier before coming on the podcast, the interview with you, Matty, is that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega acting like they just wanted to talk and knocked on the door, but yet CM Punk, still their side of the story is definitely different.
They barged in.
Yeah, they barged in, and that's where the chair got thrown and hit one of the Jackson brothers. And Ace still thought he was Mike Tyson, was wanting to buy it, and everything else. I don't know. I just said all due respect to Mike Tyson because he could knock you out. He's a dangerous man. But it's just that example. So you don't know if they're blowing this out of proportion, though, but I don't doubt that it really happened, and I don't believe it was an angle, even though that it would be pretty neat, but yet I would kind of be a little bit turned off if it was, just knowing what all's coming out now. It's not a good look. It's just embarrassing for AEW, so I'm glad they can, hopefully get past this, as we saw on Dynamite, and let's just enjoy wrestling. Like Jimmy Bebe would say, it's just getting nuts. I mean, everybody wants to take sides now, and it's, we're in an uproar, but you got to call out when it gets silly, though, too. So I get that other side of the argument. Excuse me there.
Now, we're going to go off on a tangent because this one might take you a minute to answer.
All right.
What has been your favorite pro wrestling match this year? We are in this month of September, so you've got 9 months of pro wrestling.
Yeah. That's going to take a while. It's like the dream opponent. The other question. I like these that make you think. They're challenging. Okay, 9 months. I'm even including the WrestleManias. I'll tell you, this may come as a shocker, but Cody Rhodes returning and setting up the Seth Rollins trilogy before he got injured. I got to give him a lot of props. I always knew Cody could wrestle very well. To me, he became a great wrestler in my eyes when he came back. He had some tremendous matches in AEW, don't get me wrong. But I felt like he re-energized himself thanks to being in AEW, thanks to starting that promotion, then returning home. I think it's true. The prodigal son, like the old fable, that was Cody coming back. He just needed time to reinvent himself like a lot of wrestlers do, like a Chris Jericho. And he was able to return, make an impact, pardon the pun, with Impact Wrestling and stuff. And, Seth Rollins, he's an architect, man. So both these guys had a wonderful story to tell, and people reacted to it very positively. And I'm just a big fan of both those guys, so that helped. And that's one thing you can say. You may not agree with McMahon's booking and with everything that's came out and Triple H taking over, which I'm all in support of, but McMahon and his team really did well with this push of Cody, because it did tell the real-life story of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, if you will, and the son of a plumber, polka dots, all of that. But it goes back before that, when something I didn't realize, and you learn something all the time with wrestling history, he was actually competing for Vince Sr., I believe, and was close to becoming the guy and having the world title. But unfortunately, that didn't work out. Of course, he still had great success, in Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett by then, which, all the same pretty much. I mean, they owned that territory and was the booker. So, to me, I would say Cody and Seth's up there. I'm trying to think of all the matches because 9 months is a great long span. And I'm not trying to disrespect AEW. They've had some great ones, too. That's not it at all. That one stands out, I guess, because, fair or not, it was WrestleMania. So you had that platform. And just the anticipation, Seth really selling it well, waiting. They drew it out, and then all of a sudden you hear those words before that song and stuff, and everybody just roared. The rumors were rampant anyways. After, speaking of something else that preluded the, I guess would be the word, the whole scrum situation, was Cody leaving AEW. And having disagreements, apparently, from what we understand, with the Young Bucks and all the EVPs, Adam Page and all that. I don't know if he still is, Hangman, and everything. So there's a lot of fascinating ways to look at it. I've got to give the women a lot of credit. I think Becky Lynch, her and Bianca, that would be another one, because I hate not to mention the women and everything. Bianca has been great, and Becky Lynch, one of the best, I think. And, of course, Bayley, the four-horse women. I know everybody's like, oh, you always pick those, but, well, you can't help it. I mean, it may be a formula. They are, exactly. And so, I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. That's what it's about. Becky Lynch is that good. So is Bayley. So is Charlotte. And a lot of people argue that. But the proof is there. And so I have to give them a lot of credit. So, I wanted to give the women show them some love, because I feel bad just mentioning men's matches. But to be fair, the Cody Seth one stood out.
We've got a lot in the comments. We've got David saying that FTR versus the Briscoes, their first match was his match of the year. Courtney
That was
saying
a good one.
Courtney saying that she wants FTR versus the Machine Guns.
I do too, Courtney. That would be great.
Now this one, if you don't know much about Aussie Open, this match is going to be insane.
It is. No, it's going to be FTR fighting Aussie Open. I have got to see Aussie Open. I've been very impressed by them. And, of course, FTR is one of the top teams for a reason. Top guys out, as they say. I mean, that's legit. I mean, much respect to those gentlemen.
Now, a lot of people have been, saying their wrestler of the year's this, their wrestler of the year's that. There's been a lot of people putting Dax Harwood in that conversation. Do you defend that, or are you against that?
I defend that. I think I've seen Dax work singles. I thought they were great as tag team wrestlers. I think both guys are just stellar singles competitors. Dax Harwood, those guys can hit for a reason. I mean, when him and Lethal were chopping each other, I mean, those guys, that's what we appreciated about the Gunther Sheamus affair. And like any of, back when he was known as Walter. And Sheamus, too, his other matches, those guys hit hard. So, yeah, Dax Harwood is, he's incredible. What else can the guy not do? I mean, I didn't even get to see the Claudio Castagnoli Dax Harwood match from Rampage, but I saw just little clips, and I was just like, this is incredible. Yeah, I don't care what star rating you want to give it. It's amazing. Great job.
So good. Matthew Ward, what's up in the chat? What do you think if the Young Bucks were to face the Street Profits?
That would be interesting if the Young Bucks, you guys, or maybe it was mentioned from WrestleBuddy that there was interest to the WWE after all this, and with the Bucks and Kenny Omega. So if that were to actually happen, and you have that dream match scenario, I think, the Young Bucks and Street Profits would be interesting. But I just think the Street Profits, though, with their style, though, and knowing the Jacksons, I don't know. I'm wondering how well that would mesh, though. I mean, it's easy to see it on paper, but the execution may be a little tricky.
Okay, David. My top 10 as of today: Moxley, Ospreay, Okada, White, Dax, Alexander, Seth, Danielson, Bailey, and Drew. Now, is that Speedball Mike Bailey? Just because of the way it's spelled.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I won't have you do a full top 10 right now, but who are your top 5 wrestlers right now? And you can have a team be a full one.
Well, I was also going to ask and reiterate, does this mean technical or just stars?
As I guess your top 5 wrestlers, just in your opinion.
Yeah. Top 5, definitely got to have Bryan Danielson in there. I think that's a no-brainer.
It was Speedball.
Okay, Speedball. Thanks for the clarification there.
Really
but
good. Phenomenal year this year.
Yeah, Bryan Danielson, incredible. You can argue about his booking all you want, but the match has been still great. I love his work. Definitely out there. I'm trying to think of all the active ones. I got to tell you what, I've got to give a lot of credit to Kevin Owens. He keeps this KO as, I'm starting to learn more and more with this main roster push of the NXT guys. And definitely Seth Rollins, you've got to put Rollins up there. I think it's evident. AJ Styles, a lot of those guys. I mean, if we're talking like wrestlers, as far as stars, you got to put Roman Reigns up there, put Drew McIntyre. And I may have already done 5. It's so hard to do these like top 5s or 10s because I feel like I'm leaving so many people out or forgetting names. And also, we needed to add some women there. I would, if we did like a women's top 5, this is going to sound partial, and I'm not meaning any disrespect. I'll include AEW. I'm going to do, I'm not going to even do them in order so that this would sound fair, but I'll put Charlotte Flair in there. I'll put a Thunder Rosa in there.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think a little bit differently as well. I know everybody's like, well, what about Britt Baker? What about some of the others, Tony Storm? And I get that, but I'm trying to look at it from overall, experience and ability, and maybe Storm has the equal experience with Thunder Rosa, but it's just perspective. I've got her in there. I've got, of course, Becky Lynch, and it would be hard-pressed not to have Bianca in there. And I know Rousey, but I'm trying to think of people that's been there a long time. Rousey has, but she's like a lot of them. No disrespect, kind of in and out at times. And I'm trying to think of match quality as well from both companies. Yeah, so it's hard not to pick the four horsewomen. I know everybody's like, oh, that's so easy, but we just talked about it. I mean, that's why I try to think of somebody that's either been in AEW. If I had an all-around roster, we had talked about it off air. I think Colleen King from the Indies. If we just could do Indies too, and people that have went to the companies like AEW, or I could see her in an NXT and eventually being. She's a great star. I think Camille's done a fabulous job with NWA. If we were to broaden the spectrum a little bit, I mean, she's been wonderful. So that's what makes it so tough about these things. I'm going to leave somebody out, or somebody's going to ask me, why didn't you pick them or something? And I get that. It's just, you got to realize, just like everybody, there's so much content out there, you're liable to leave somebody out without meaning anything by it. So I just want to throw that out there in case I know I'm going to get comments. Oh, you didn't mention, and then they'll help me remember. So I appreciate it. You'll probably say a name. I go, oh yeah, the light bulb moment. I should have picked them, or at least include them.
All right, Matthew has asked if you have Kenny Omega and the Bucks versus Roman and the Usos, the Elite versus the Bloodline.
You know what? I think this could work because of even though it's a Styles clash, pardon the pun, with the pay-per-view, and the move by AJ Styles and everything, you're going to have these, the Young Bucks and Usos could probably do some good stuff together. And Roman and Omega would be interesting because Roman could probably slow down Kenny a little more and be more methodical, where Kenny could do more of his special kind of innovative offensive maneuvers. So I'm not mad at that concept, actually. I think it proposes a lot of what-ifs and intrigue.
We've actually had a couple AEW versus WWE questions. So I'll ask one of myself. Book a 5-match AEW versus WWE show.
Oh, a book of 5-match. Wow, this is good.
We'll go a tag title, the main event, a women's match, and then 2 other matches, just fillers.
A tag title. Let's go FTR taking on the Usos. If we're going to talk about 2 tops, there's a lot that could be in that picture. But I'm going there. And the reason, and let's make it where FTR has got to make Jimmy and Jey Uso prove they can be dominant outside WWE, kind of like they are. I mean, let's predicate to some of the opinion, the narrative that's out there, whether right or wrong. I would have Roman Reigns. I would have him taken on, and I've got to be careful for it not to be an ex-WWE star now that AEW's got so many, or that would be pretty obvious and probably boring to a lot of people. So I'm thinking of it, how can we create an issue here too would be another thing to make it work. Roman Reigns is claiming he's the head of the bloodline, the tribal chief. He's on a whole nother level. So we got to pick somebody from AEW that's definitely the main event guy, and this may not be popular, but knowing their history, even though he's totally reinvented himself in a different style, and this may come out of left field, but what if you have Jon Moxley come out? You hear his music, if you were able to have this joint show, if it ever were to happen. And he's like, now wait a minute there, Roman. Remember, I'm your Shield partner. So you're the champion. You're not just the big dog like how you were, and I was a champion too, but I went away. I've reinvented myself. I've came back, and I got a lot of respect for you. And I see Seth here. I could go to him, but I want to fight you. I want to take you on it because now I think Triple H, you're his guy. And I've got a problem with that. You can even draw that, even if Triple H didn't do anything wrong. Just put him part of the storyline. Try to create something that people can go, hey, wait a minute, or make them think a little bit. I could kind of see that. Maybe he is kind of the chosen one. I mean, evidently he is, and AEW is really building, especially with all the Punk mess. I know people are like, I don't know how this will be as far as a match, but it doesn't have to even be that classic of a match. Just try to tease something. I mean, to where you could build something else. I mean, there's so many layers of the story you could add eventually. And the tag team match, I know I teased FTR and the Usos. I tell you what, in an alternate universe, why don't we just make it a triple threat? And to the comment, I would not be mad if the Briscoes were involved.
Ooh.
Let's do that. Let's put the Briscoes, knowing how they work with FTR and knowing how good the Usos are. I would actually even have Solo Sequoia interfere to screw up one of the tag teams so you could continue this. And where you could add stipulations, you could leave room for creative progress. And what are some of the other matches? You said to what, get 5 matches? So,
Yeah,
I don't know if they all need a
the
tunnel.
tag, you have the main. Now we need a women's and then just 2 other matches.
Women's match. Okay, let me try that. So our 2 champions right now, as it stands, Liv Morgan and Bianca Belair. Okay. I think I want to see Bianca Belair. Let me see, because Toni Storm's the AEW Women's Champion. I'm trying to think of their roster. That's what hurts AEW right now. They don't have the depth that WWE does. So I was thinking who matched up. I know everybody wants to see Jade Cargill. That seems to be the obvious choice, but I didn't want to go there. I think that would be kind of rushing things and kind of premature. So Bianca Belair's out there. You got Damage Control. You could use this current storyline. Okay, she's got, she needs help. So if you can involve AEW, what if you make it where it's a ally that turns on her? It's Toni Storm. She's the champion. She's got that star recognition. She's been there. And she comes out and offers her hand to take on Damage Control. But yet, she turns on Bianca, but she doesn't join Damage Control. She wants to screw them over too because she wants to prove why she's the top lady. So she's like, I'm going to challenge Bianca. That way, it's a swerve, but it's not so obvious where she's just going to join and take, her claim with the other team. Let's make it a little interesting. I like those kind of storylines where you have to think and you're kind of still adding context to it. So I hope it's making some logic here because these are great ideas. I mean, it's really tough to try to do this stuff.
Oh, yeah, you got Courtney.
And everything. So I'm trying to think of the rosters, too, to be realistic and what surprises and everything without overdoing it. And I think that's what was great about Clash. Triple H really fooled all of us. We didn't need all those surprises. Yeah, that's why I said that, David. I don't think Jade would be logical. With all due respect, I think she is that star quality, but still needs to be a polished wrestler before I would even put her in there with Bianca or anybody else, even Toni Storm. I mean, I think that's why the TBS women's title is good for her, but I'm kind of ready for that to be taken off at some point. I think you could build up another lady because Jade really doesn't need a belt right now. I don't think she needs it. Just personal opinion. And the other matches, and Matty will help remind me because my memory fades. We got the women's match, the tag team title picture, kind of the main event scenario.
So just 2 mid-card matches.
2 mid-card matches.
Or
Okay.
you could have another top echelon match and then another mid-card.
Okay, top echelon match. Let's actually involve a former WWE star who I think will be back, Bryan Danielson. Okay, you've got Riddle. Once he's done with the Seth Rollins feud, let's get them together because Riddle can match up, I think, pretty well with the American Dragon. Let's have them do, I don't like gimmick matches, but with Extreme Rules coming up, you don't even have to have an Extreme Rules. Let's just do what they did in NXT. What was it, him and Ciampa, where the
fight
pit fight? Yeah, fight pit. I'd like to see Danielson and Riddle in that atmosphere. Change it up.
Fun.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool, and I know people will probably, you'll have somebody go, what's he talking about? But really, I can see something pretty wonderful happening, especially with Riddle's growth, and you've got Danielson in there. Both guys could kind of, you would need Danielson to lead the match, of course, but Riddle has more than enough now under his belt too, because now he's training, all these other wrestlers, helping them, so this would be great. So that would be another match. I would have to have, you've got, I think, Gunther, being the Intercontinental Champion. Once he finishes, I'm trying to think of somebody, though, that could match up well with him out of the AEW side, and I'm not knocking AEW side. Oh, I'll tell you who. I don't know if this will make sense. I may have Wardlow take on Bobby Lashley. Let's do that. Yeah,
would be a
let's
lot
do
of
that
money.
instead. I was thinking Gunther, but not exactly. I don't think Wardlow's the guy because you want somebody that can work a little more, and Lashley can, but you want that power versus power kind of matchup for that. That's what I was going to.
Comparing styles.
Sure, yeah, with the physiques and everything. So that leaves me with Gunther. Yeah, Garcia in theory. That's a good one. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Knowing Garcia is more technical and in theory can work. Yeah, I like the ideas. I appreciate the suggestions there. That would be a pretty fun match. I'm with you. I'm trying to think Gunther, and forgive me for having this sound redundant as I'm thinking here. Gunther taking on, I'm trying to think of who in the AEW roster would match up. Let's see. Ooh, Gunther and Brody King. That would be fun, but I'm thinking of the styles, too, that would match. Not that they always would have to, but I just don't see Brody, and with all due respect, I think it'd be a fun match.
Now, I've got one for Gunther.
Okay.
No, he's taking a hiatus right now. But Malachi Black versus Gunther would be a really good match.
Oh, gosh, you talk about hard hitting. Between the kicks and the chops. No, that's actually a very good one, Matty. I would like to see that one. And Malachi Black and Gunther. Gunther and I'd even put Buddy Matthews in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because to your point, Malachi Black, that would be a pretty logical opponent. And both these guys have been over there, so it wouldn't be out of the realm. And then Gunther, I would have Imperium come into AEW and kind of mix it up if you could do it and challenge.
I mean, there are the trios titles.
Yeah, the trios titles, and you could have Pac and Penta and Ray Phoenix. Even though people are like, oh, they should destroy them, but let's make it interesting. You could have Ozzy open some New Japan if you're really going to open up the floodgates here, and all the possibilities. Have Imperium come out and have an open challenge. And say, hey, we come to your show. We've been hearing your boss talk all this crap about us holding pay-per-views. You want to prove who's the real team? Let me come out here. And then the ring general, Kaiser could say something like that, and they come out and real intimidating, and they beat up everybody. That's what I would have them do. Come in and just take, clean house, really make a statement, and then do it. Then cut the promo. And then all of a sudden, you know what? You want to throw some New Japan in there just to mix it up with AEW so I can satisfy the New Japan crowd. What's the team with Will Ospreay? Not as the Open.
United
Cobb.
Empire. It's him, Cobb, and Khan. Grado Khan.
Now, this is kind of out of the box, but what do you think about them surprising everybody? You're going to think it's an AEW opponent, but maybe give them something more from another promotion that's done business with AEW. Oh, Josh Alexander, that's a great one. Yeah, he's been on a tear in Impact. Josh Alexander against anybody in WWE, AEW. That's a good one.
And a triple threat. Ooh.
Yeah, triple threat. It would have to be Josh Alexander. Okay, what if you put Sheamus as one of those guys?
Oh.
Josh Alexander, Sheamus, and let's think of the AEW participant.
I think to David's point earlier, I might put Daniel Garcia in that AEW slot. If not him.
No, that'd be good. Yeah, that's fine. I would be fine. I mean, I know Sheamus is kind of the wild card there because he's got more of the name recognition, but it's all about making it interesting, but making it fit. So you have to kind of think, Claudio. That's a good one. See, I appreciate that. So you're reminding me, yeah, maybe put Claudio in the Sheamus spot then. But of course, no, you need somebody WWE, so you'd have to have some, and you could substitute Sheamus out. I'll tell you what, no, let me do this. What if you had Butch/Pete Dunne taking on, Daniel Bryan, not Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Garcia, and then Josh Alexander. What was that last comment? I'm sorry, I was trying to do this match.
So, Chewy, if you are following the old Facebook page, it has been hacked. We do have a new Facebook page.
That's what I was wondering. What's Corn got to do? That was funny, yeah.
We have a new Facebook page. Please look for it.
Well, hey, if we were going to book Corn, we would. I mean, that was going to be part of the match. But no, I'll tell you what. Now it would be Garcia, Alexander, and Dunn. Or a Pac. Yeah, Pac would work. See, that's what I love. You could substitute different people. That's what I appreciate about the comments. and stuff. But I hope that makes sense, and that's pretty interesting. I don't know. I always try to think outside the box, and it gets your mind working. I enjoy the challenge of trying to piece these together. So that's what I'm saying. I've got immense respect for real bookers and creative people, because it's not always easy to do this. You gotta.
I think that was a pretty damn good five match card.
Yeah.
Now we got about 5 minutes left. This
Okay.
is the point in every show where I will ask you, why do you love pro wrestling, Tyler?
I love pro wrestling because you feel like you're a part of the story with these wrestlers. You're along for the ride, if that makes any sense. If you can invest in the characters, the gimmicks, you are. I'm laughing about that. That's funny, but I'll continue with the response. That's what's funny. You'll get some different elements on Matty's show. That's why we love it so much. But to that question, it's if the storyline is getting you invested and you're losing yourself, suspending your disbelief, just like when you're watching a movie or anything. The same with wrestling. There's something special about that, and that's why, or what I love about it. Professional wrestling. It's as simple as that. It's all the storytelling, the great matches, the moments, and whether I'm watching something from the 90s, 80s, even 70s till now, as long as I'm engaged with it and it's clicking with me. But that's the beautiful thing about it. Wrestling may not always, resonate the same with everybody. That's what makes it so diverse and such a nice discussion. Now, sometimes toxic discussion, but that's okay. I mean, we're going to have our agreements and disagreements. So that's what I love about pro wrestling.
All right, Tyler, thank you so much for sitting here with me.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you for having me, Matty, and Wrestlebuddy. I think it's awesome to meet the staff and kind of gauge their interest.
And this hour really flew by.
It did, because I can't even believe we've been on about an hour. That's hard to believe. We could have probably been on for a couple hours, but for the algorithm, like you guys like to say, we better.
All right. Well, Tyler, you got a couple minutes left. Plug whatever you would like.
Okay, I'm going to plug the Rewind Wrestling Radio podcast, also back when with Danny and myself. And then, of course, that's Danny and Tyler, by the way. Also, the Uncensored Wrestling Podcast with Ann and myself. It's his show. And then also David Fine Media. I do some retro shows on there as well. And, CCW, of course. And last but not least, Wrestlebuddy. And this show and all the wonderful shows, because I would deserve to be kicked out if I didn't mention the original and the only WB I care about, and that's Wrestlebuddy.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler.
Oh, you're welcome.
Everybody in the comments who's been watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, leaving comments for Tyler and questions for him to ask. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This is the part in the show where I tell you to stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Tyler, for you and everybody at Wrestlebuddy, this is where we wave. Bye.
All right. Bye. Oh, cool, man. I hope I did